Welcome to the Cybersecurity Oversight series, and thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about the topic of the human firewall. Now, we know how important and technical cybersecurity can be. When we think about cybersecurity, many of us, we think about um, antivirus. How do you protect your computers from antiviruses? We're thinking about hardening of your servers and all the technical controls. Well, today we're here to share with you about another aspect of cybersecurity that is very important, and we're referring it to it as the human firewall. I've got Ubaid here with me, who is a subject matter expert who's going to share with us what is a human firewall, and he's going to share some insights on how we can effectively use the human firewall and so on. So, Ubaid, thank you very much for joining me today.
Welcome.
Human firewall, tell me, what is that about?
All right, so in today's time, social engineering and in more particular phishing is a significant threat to organizations of all sizes. For example, if one user or an unsuspecting employee within the organization clicks on just one link, that could potentially mean that the organization has been compromised.
Mm.
So to prevent that, organizations should establish and implement cybersecurity awareness programs so that they can empower their employees and become the human firewall within the organization. So in essence, the human firewall concept is the idea that our employees are our first line of defense. And we think of them as our first line of defense because when we look at phishing in particular, phishing looks at employees and trying to trick them and deceive them in order to gain information from the business or the organization or gain access and compromise the business itself. So effective cybersecurity awareness and training is required for organizations to build the employees' understanding and capability of cybersecurity so that they are aware and are capable to report and prevent any suspicious activity within the organization.
Great. You mentioned two interesting concepts.
Mhm.
One is social engineering, and another is phishing.
Yes.
Now, they sound very simple, and to an extent, they come naturally.
Mhm.
But can you just expand? What do you mean, and what is the difference between social engineering and phishing?
Yes, no. So with phishing, phishing is a form of social engineering. So social engineering is a technique used by cyber threat actors or cyber attackers to deceive any employee or any type of security control that has been implemented with an organization to gain access to various systems or sensitive information. So for example, social engineering will consist of phishing, which is what I'll explain a little bit more on, and then another thing as physical security, physical security. So that is assessing your physical security controls, as well as another one could be tailgating, and that is exactly like bouncing a tailgate or running in once someone has opened the door for you and not signing in your card. So if that is social engineering, and if you look at phishing in itself, phishing is a technique used by attackers in the form of an email to deceive or trick employees in order to gain access to the system or to gain access to sensitive information with the entire goal to actually compromise the organization itself.
Hmm. Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that and explaining to us what those concepts mean. Now, Ubaid, you know, clearly social engineering, phishing are some of the tactics, but can you share broadly what are some of the other tactics that cyber attackers out there use to lure and to deceive people?
Yes, so I'll keep the tactics within phishing, and there's numerous tactics that attackers use these days that can be implemented within a phishing campaign or a phishing attack on an organization. So for one of the most commonly used tactics within phishing is something known as pretexting. And this is when an attacker poses as a legitimate entity trying to trick or deceive an employee in order to gain sensitive information or access to data. Another form of tactics that is used in conjunction with pretexting is something known as email spoofing. And to make that more generic for everyone to understand, I would say that it's more of something known as impersonation. So, for example, that means someone is forging or stealing a legitimate email address and posing as that person or organization using that legitimate address. So, for example, and I'll add another tactic within that example, is that say John Doe at PwC is emailing you. So
Mhm.
now we are using email spoofing. John Doe has stolen the credentials of John Doe and is acting as John Doe and is pretexting to be from a legitimate source, which is PwC. So now they've used the pretexting and email spoofing already to email you. And then another tactic that they'll couple with those two is something known as baiting. And this is where they will put a sense of urgency within the email,
Mhm.
or actually tell you like you have won a reward, or there's money involved, and ultimately that's the tactic that they will use. So in essence, for this example, John Doe at PwC has emailed you stating the following: that you need to provide your credentials to him because there's been a technical error in the back end of our systems that may result in your salary not being paid. So obviously that's going to show you the urgent matter for you to
Yeah.
actually click on maybe a link or submit data, and that can provide access to that attacker and give him access to your system, and genetically he might actually get access to the rest of the organization.
Yes, especially if it's close to payday. I
Yeah,
would want to give
definitely.
them the information
Exactly.
as quickly as possible.
Exactly. Mhm.
Well, Obey, do you have some war stories that you can share with us on how you've seen these attacks in action?
Yes, funny enough, a personal matter and how I actually got into cybersecurity and interested in cybersecurity was actually through a phishing email. When I was still studying, I actually got phished in an email. I clicked on the link. Luckily, I didn't lose any information, but I always wanted to be intrigued and understand why and how did everyone do this phishing email. So that's also one of the war stories that I have. But another one in my actual day-to-day here at PwC is at one of the organizations. I was fortunate enough to perform a physical security assessment, so testing their access controls, trying to get in past the security guards. Hopefully, I don't get beat up, kind of a thing. So when that happened, I posed as a senior executive, or I was actually posed as coming and posing as the someone who was part of the senior executive committee, and I had a formal letter indicating that, hey, I'm part of the board. This was signed off by the CEO, and all that matters just in case I got stopped. I walked into the building, signed in, just acted normal. When I got to the front desk, I said, I'm here to see a specific person that's legit, works at the company. And then they said, I need to go to the lady over there, which was actually a tea lady, and said that they will let me in. I asked the tea lady, told I'm here to see X, Y, and Z. And she was like, oh, sure, you can come in. Do you know where to go? I obviously didn't know where to go, but I told her, yes, I know where to go. And she let me be free throughout the entire head office. I walked around looking for an empty desk, found a random desk just sitting there. And I sat down, plugged my laptop in, and got to work. Employees started walking past me. My expectation was that they're going to ask me, who am I? Why am I sitting here? But nope, I was greeted with good remarks, and I just said, hello back.
Wow, that's how easy it is.
Yeah.
Well, but share with us, our audience here, who are the attackers? I mean, in my mind, I mean, or let's talk about the history of cybersecurity. An attacker, some people may think of as a young guy sitting
Mhm,
somewhere in their room
mhm,
or in varsity trying to cause trouble.
mhm.
But in your experience, who is the attacker today? Is it someone trying to make a lot of money? What kind of a profile have you seen out there?
Yeah. So with my experience, there are numerous type of attackers. Yes, you do get those ones in university. Those are specifically called script kiddies. But these days, you more look at corporate espionage. This is people that's actually trying to gain another hand on someone else, and they use illegitimate ways to actually compromise networks or compromise an organization so they can get ahead. Additionally, you'll sometimes find that your actual attacker is your own employee. Um, I think organizations and executives tend to forget that if you have or you disgruntle some of your employees, they might be the actual ones that are breaking your systems or leaking your information to the actual attackers. So that's in essence who you'll see most of the time around, from my experience. Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, wait, thanks for all the background information and how can go wrong, what can go wrong and how it can go wrong. How do we respond? How do we as humans, but particularly corporations out there that are susceptible to these kind of attacks, how do they respond by effectively using, as you call it, the human firewall?
No, definitely. So we need to think of cybersecurity awareness within an organization, and this is where we implement and establish and build our human firewall, which is essentially our employees. So organizations and executives can think of numerous different ways in terms of raising that awareness, and by doing that, they can implement something known as cybersecurity awareness training, and this is presenting the employees with presentations or information or training on cybersecurity trends and threats or phishing, showing them what to avoid, what to look at, what access controls they need to follow, and they can do this on a periodic basis in order to provide them with continuous training. Another method that can fall part of your training is simulation exercises, and this is where you will actually perform internally the social engineering techniques mentioned, like social engineering, phishing, uh, physical security assessments, to gauge your employees' effectiveness of the training that they learned, and to actually see if what you have been giving them is being implemented as well. Another method I would like to couple with that is also thinking of continuously updating your employees and providing the organization with the latest cybersecurity trends and reports. And this you can do by emailing them on a periodic basis, just saying, hey, this is what's happening in our industry. This is the latest cybersecurity threats and trends currently happening in the world. And additionally, what you would like to see at an organization is little posters or even big posters set up in the organization telling them that this is our organizational good password practice hygiene that you can follow. This is the actual way you can avoid a phishing email and what to look at. Even if you just advise them that, hey, this is the access controls that you need to follow when you open this door or when you come into our head office, that can be a means of providing cybersecurity awareness to the organization. And essentially, you want to upskill and provide the best information of cybersecurity and make your employees aware of this information, because you are building this human firewall. You are building your first line of defense, and you want to understand that your first line of defense is capable to prevent any potential threat to your organization so that you can protect your data and any compromise that you may face.
Great. Where does an executive or a senior management team member out there? I'm thinking, how frequently do I do this? How frequently do I give awareness training and assess that through these simulations that you've mentioned, simulation of someone phishing or doing some kind of social engineering? How often? What is the frequency?
Yeah, so I would say before we even get to the frequency, what senior executives and management should consider is first a clear cybersecurity vision and objective that they're trying to obtain from the cybersecurity awareness. So, for example, if you want to measure how effective it is, if you're going to implement training, simulation exercises, then what you want to do is maybe one of your objectives could be you send out your training to your employees on a quarterly basis for them to get training. Your objective and measurement is that you will send it to 400 employees. You want to know that 95% of that employees every quarter is actually completing that training. That could be a measure that you want to stick to, and how you can constantly measure that or find a success within that is to say, out of the 95%, you want to make sure that every quarter there is only a resistance of 5% of users that does not complete the training on time, and that can be a measurement. Same with simulation exercises. This might be the best metric for you to actually measure your effectiveness of the training implemented. So if you do the phishing campaign, you can assess who's been submitting information, clicking on links, or whatever the phishing campaign might be of that time. And then you can actually identify your frequent submitters and target them for more vigorous training so that they can understand and gain that targeted understanding of the awareness that has been approached to them. Same with physical security assessments. If you assess this, you can identify the security controls that's required within your organization. And this depends on the frequency of the organization itself. If you do it on a, you can do your simulation exercises monthly, you can do it quarterly, so long that they frequently get the updates, and those that do fail, they are constantly being followed up and trained upon as well.
Fantastic. Obaid, any last thoughts from you on how can organizations out there ensure that they have got a strong human firewall?
Mhm. So, from my perspective, I would say that senior management really plays a crucial role within the organization in establishing that cybersecurity vision and aligning it with the overall strategy of the business. And this includes that the senior management includes and invests in time that that includes cybersecurity into all aspects of the organization, such as operations of the business, the risk management within the business, and even specific to some compliance activities. And senior management can do this by ensuring that they invest in the technological capabilities that is there to support and empower the employees and even protect the employees from being exposed to such social engineering or phishing attacks. Um, Additionally, to attempt to provide and continuously establish the opportunity for the employees to gain that cybersecurity awareness and open up the forum for them to continuously learn and become that human firewall concept that we want them to be. And I would I would say to end off, there is 2 points that I would like to bring across that I think could be of importance that senior management can implement, and that is to provide a place, whether it be digital or physical, where the employees can report cyber incidents or any suspicious activity within the organization, where the organization can investigate further. And I would say, lastly and most importantly, is that senior executives themselves act as those who are vigilant and implementing the cybersecurity, showing the employees the awareness and type of strategic inputs that needs to be looked at when we are performing social engineering, or when we're looking at emails, or when we're responding to clients or to any other third-party emails, and act as that vigilance and leader in the organization.
Yes, indeed. The tone from the top is
Mhm.
quite important. So that's that for today, folks. It is clear to us that as you innovate, as you implement big transformation projects that involve technology, the human is at the center, is making sure that the human is aware, because the human will be the one enabling and using the technology. Thank you for your time.